You guys are you in the city right now? Are you in New York?
I'm in New York, yeah.
Is it freezing still?
It's windy, freezing. The snow is filthy. Everyone's complaining about it, so I don't want to
Yeah,
do it, but
I hear you.
it is really a mess. We haven't had garbage picked up in several weeks.
Oof.
It's it's a
It's the
mess
new era.
as I expected, but it's just
Mm.
we didn't expect a storm. That's the thing, and it's just hasn't been cleaned up. So we're kind of struggling still, but it's getting better. It's getting a little warmer, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Ryan,
Why?
I just got a notification.
What's the issue? Because the streets aren't passable? The trucks can't get in there? Is that what's going on?
No, I think that they just didn't send enough people to plow in the very beginning, and it just kind of
Okay.
no one made any paths for people to cross the streets on the corners and everything, which is public property. I mean, the private owners, we did make, our little pathways to the street, but I think people that are disabled or elderly are having a hard time. It's a little bit better now. Like I said, the snow's melting, so there's some passageways, but it's really been very challenging these last couple of weeks. Can't wait for the spring.
Yeah, I hear you.
Are we going to get any appearances from Tiggy?
So you can hear her in the background.
It's
No,
okay.
this is what I was trying to avoid because hopefully she will shut up. I think somebody's at the door. I'd love to have her here with me, but she's very unpodictable.
Well, we're gonna ask her to be on the podcast at one point too, so don't worry. She hasn't answered any of my emails. Hard guess
She's
to
too
get.
busy. She's just way too busy. No, she's very unpredictable, Tiggy. So she's if you say one, there might be one word that'll trigger her and she'll start barking. So
Don't worry about it.
she's funny though.
So cute.
Yeah, my last dog I used to have with me every time I did Zooms and stuff, and she just kind of sat there. And
Yeah.
this one is not. She's a big mouth. You can hear her.
How old is she?
A little bit over 2 now. Still a puppy, but she's very very excited about everything. She's very enthusiastic and loves everybody. And if she thinks someone's at the door, it's like the greatest thing she's never experienced, and she barks.
What they do.
Everybody that's watching at home, be patient with us for a few minutes. We're going to give everybody till about 5 after to get started officially. Um, Howie, did we? I know I threw you a curveball when we did the intro that day, but we got in Facebook jail for that. Were you still working on that?
What, the music thing?
Yeah, the different music.
I'm still working on it. I haven't had a chance with Serenades. Sorry, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, come on! Like you've got things going on.
This,
Like we know you
se-
got all kinds of time.
no, I mean between work, real work, and Serenade stuff, the first week.
Oh, you have a job? I
Yeah, I
go
have
to
contrary to popular belief, yes, I do have a job.
I get that all the time. Like, how do you get, like, I have a job, people. Like, I have an actual paying job.
Oh, well, I'm getting there, but hopefully by next week we should have it ready. When things calm down. I'm just gonna make sure that everything is there, and we'll start it up.
Howie, your stepdaughter is pending membership to the Spring Nut Cafe group.
Well, she probably didn't answer the questions, but okay.
Oh boy.
Lottery.
All right, let's see.
I can't find it.
I got it.
Okay.
Is she not a Facebook person, Julie? Can she not see this publicly?
Not at all.
Okay. Gotcha.
She's in law school.
All right,
She's
we're good.
busy.
Can I ask how old she is?
24.
Okay, because the reason, like my kids are 19 and 21. Neither one of them, like they have Facebook and they have an account, but they never look at it. It's like
Yeah.
all Insta, Snapchat. Facebook is not a thing for them.
Yeah, it's not their generation at all.
Okay, everyone's in now. I got everybody in. We're
All
good.
right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we could start up. I'm going
Yep.
to say welcome to everyone for another special edition in my book. I'm sorry, this one's a special one for me.
Very special.
Very special for Spring Nut Cafe. Although all guests are special, this one means a lot to me personally, and I'm going to be selfish. I know I'm speaking for Julie as well. This person is not only, in my book, just, Stevie's wife. She's an amazing, amazing person. Okay, inside and out. She's been a huge supporter of this group from day one. Okay. She's been a huge supporter of Julie and myself personally. And I can't begin to tell you how much this person means to us these days. And I am, when I say the word honor, I am truly honored to have Maureen Van Zandt on this show,
Woo!
Spring Nut Cafe. I want to welcome Maureen.
Don't start me off crying, okay? Thank you. That was so sweet. Thank
It's
you.
all downhill from here, Maureen.
No, insult me, call me names, and it'll be okay. I'll make up for that.
No. Never.
Aw,
Never.
no.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. And I'm going to hand it off to Ryan, who's our host, and welcome back Stan to the show. Finally, he's doing better. I hope you're doing, better. He looks great as usual. He's the stud of the group these days. And my lovely, lovely wife, Julie.
Hey.
Julie, are you truly on a beach somewhere and we just don't know it?
Oh, only my dreams, Ryan.
I wish.
You are.
I know many people that are in Florida, Mexico. My brother's going to Hawaii. It's like this is the time of the year. Everybody's going somewhere sunny.
2 weeks, we're out.
Nice.
Lovely.
All right, Maureen. Well, like Howie said, it's truly an honor for me to be able to talk to you and to get to know you. Truly, this is just a very low speed. We're not going to come after you with hard-hitting questions. This isn't 2020. We're not Barbara Walters here. We just want this to be
Damn,
fun for
I
everybody.
want it to be that.
Well, we can as we go through this. If you want more heavy questions, we can.
No.
All right, so I always ask our guests, some of whom I know well and some I don't. And I need to be very specific. I asked Joe Grishecki to like tell us about yourself, background. He like went back to like 1975, and I'm like, no. Like I want to go back all the way. Like I want to go back. So when I ask you, tell us about yourself, we want to know like where you grew up, your family, all that kind of stuff.
Oh boy, that's a long way back that I have to go. But let's see. I was born in East Orange, New Jersey, and mostly grew up in Newark. Very Italian, Catholic family, Catholic schoolgirl. Let's see. I've got 4 sisters. I, like I said, went to Catholic school for grammar school, then ended up in arts high school, and ended up in LaGuardia High School, which is called LaGuardia now, but it was called High School of Performing Arts. I used to commute back and forth from Jersey to New York because I wanted to be at that school, which is the Fame School.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the movie. I started out, I didn't plan to be a dancer, but I went to a dance class because my best friend, and we were about 6 years old, she was going, and I thought, okay, I'll just go because she's going. She hated it. I loved it. I stayed. And so I did want to pursue maybe a theatrical, Broadway type career, but I was never a great singer. So I was a dancer. I ended up on Broadway in the play Gypsy when I was very young, as Baby June. And but after that, I just sort of focused on ballet. And
So growing up, like were your parents artistic? Were they dancers, musical family?
no, really not at all. But my grandfather was a great fan of coming to New York and going to Broadway shows and ballet and stuff like that. And he took me to see West Side Story when I was a very little girl. I was about 7 or 8, and I saw that, and that was it for me. Cheetah Rivera, who later I became friends with, which was one of the greatest honors of my life. And sadly, she's gone now, and I miss her. But anyway, she was such a great inspiration to me. And then I saw Rudolph Nureyev dance in
Wow.
61 or 62, and that was my other inspiration. So I thought that was the life I wanted to try to have and the thing I wanted to do.
Hmm. So starting out as a young girl, dance classes, dance lessons,
Yes,
tap, ballet.
yeah, I was not good at tap. I tried, you know, in the little dance school that we had in New Jersey, you sort of had to do everything. It was a school where Connie Francis studied voice, and she was one of the older girls there. Um, so we kind of had to do everything. I didn't really like anything else. I sort of really focused on ballet, jazz a little bit, and I would go after school. It was nothing crazy. I mean, I wasn't there every single day. I didn't have a stage mother who was sort of pushing me into doing these things, which I see now is probably a really good thing because I had to decide for myself what it was that I loved. I wasn't being pushed at all, and um, and that was it. I continued with my lessons, and then when I went into the arts high school, I had to do acting and all kinds. You know, we had to learn how to do makeup and work with costumes and all of that stuff. So I got a pretty good background in all of the arts, and I did. You know, I studied acting. This was a little bit later on. I mostly focused on dance, and when I was quite young, I joined a ballet company. I quit school to do that. And much later on, I went back to college when I was, so this is maybe in the 90s or something. So I was quite a bit older. So that I just wanted to do that because I actually was one of those kids who liked being in school, even though I complained about it every day probably, but I loved learning things. I loved reading more than anything. I used to have a flashlight under my blanket in my bedroom because my parents would tell me to go to sleep, and I was always reading books, and I'm a very avid reader and still am. Um, so I loved being in school, even though I quit early, but I went back because I felt I needed that. I like discipline, and I think that, you know, the dancing was a great discipline, but also any education is. So, so that's about it. I went back to college in my old age, and I, um, I actually went back to be a writer, and I was in the writing program. I went to Marymount College here in Manhattan, and I was in the writing program, and I took a Shakespeare class, and we had to write a paper, and I was very busy with real life things, and our teacher gave us the option of either writing the paper or doing a scene from Shakespeare. And I thought, what, I'm going to do the scene, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which, you know, was more work than I thought. So I did that, and then the head of the theater department came in and watched, and he said, you know, you may be a good writer, but you should be in the theater department. So that got me back to acting again, which I hadn't done since I was quite young. Um, so I ended up being in the theater department at Marymount College. I studied with Stella Adler. I studied with Herbert Berghoff, Uta Hagen for a little bit. So I was around at a time when really the great teachers were still doing it. And I also had the most amazing dance teachers. I think that was a really wonderful time for the arts. So I was lucky.
Sorry, I'm not a classical dance person. Stella Adler, is she related to Jerry Adler in any way?
No, Stella Adler was one of the actors from the group theater, you know, which was derived from Stanislavski. A lot of Lee Strasberg was part of it. She was a great acting teacher. She was like the grande diva of all times, and it was a trip to be in her class. But it was an honor. You know, she taught Marlon Brando and, you know, so many other great people.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh,
So at that time, it was just a really wonderful time when all of these great artists were still around. They were older, but they were passing on everything that they knew to younger people. So again, I was really lucky to be there.
hmm. So we've had several guests, and you're the first person to talk about a love of reading. Usually it's music. Like once they get hooked on music, like that's what they've done the whole time. So where did your love of reading? I love to read. I always have. So I'm just curious, like where that came from. What did you like to read when you were, you know, smaller?
Oh God, I was reading from about the age of 4.
Mm.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know how that happened, but when I got to school, I kind of already knew how to read. I also had photographic memory, which I don't have. I don't have any memory anymore. But I had photographic memory, so I could look at a page of a book and then look away and tell you every single thing it
Hmm.
said on that page. And they used to kind of cart me around to all the older classes in school and see what this little, 5-year-old can do. And it was like a freaky kind of thing in a way. And I don't think it was a great thing because I maybe was not really taking in everything that was on the page. I was visually doing it, but not maybe mentally doing it. But I just had a love of books. I used to love to go to the library after school, and I would like take out all these books. And I just read probably all the books that a lot of young girls read when I was very young, and it just was something that stayed with me. I mean, I just like to read everything. I would sit and like read the cereal box.
I still do that.
I'm afraid to do it now, but and equally strong was my love of music. I had a babysitter when I was young who used to play nothing but Elvis, so I kind of fell in love with him when I was young, and then I was equally lucky to have one of my uncles used to be a guy who would go around and supply all of the jukeboxes in all the local bars and clubs with records. So every Sunday he'd come to my house with boxes of singles. And
what a hookup.
It was insane, and so I just kind of took it for granted. And so I got to, play new records every week.
Oh,
and
wow.
I totally fell in love with rock music. So I was kind of this little ballet girl, but also this rock girl. And it was a strange combination, but a great one. And I was very, very obsessed with music. And then, of course, when the Beatles appeared, and my mother said the ruination of my life, that kind of really put me over the edge into being a total Beatlemaniac freak. But they also opened up a whole new world of music, not just to me, but to everybody. Even though I'm not a musician, they just opened up everything.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, it was like a feast of bands and artists, and it was just amazing. So again, I was lucky to be a kid at that time.
Did you get a chance to see Elvis ever, Maureen, live?
I did. I got to see Elvis in 1972.
Uh,
Just wearing the jumpsuit and but still looking so gorgeously handsome. A friend of mine knew the guy who was promoting the show, and so afterwards we got to go backstage.
Wow.
And I was more of a Beatles and British Invasion type fan, but when you're face to face with Elvis, it's like there's nothing like it. And as an entertainer, I don't know that he could be equaled. As a solo entertainer, certainly. And he was very lovely. He was extremely gentlemanly. He kept calling us ma'am, and I became offended because I thought I'm not that old, and he's calling me. But I just was that he was just a very polite and lovely gentleman. And he had these scarves, which everybody knows he takes off his neck and he gives out to people in the audience. And he gave me one of them.
Whoa.
At the time, I was in the middle of traveling around a lot, so I was staying at my mother's house. And all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, I was like, where's the red scarf? And I asked my mother, and she said, oh, I thought it was a napkin from a restaurant. I threw it in.
No.
oh,
So after that, I get very attached to things, but after that, I try to not get too attached.
oh.
That broke my heart, and I still think about it.
What a story. I rarely see Ryan starstruck, but he's like speechless. He's
I'm a huge
Oh,
Elvis fan, and I don't know many people that have actually seen him. Like I was 3 years old when he passed away. I was born in '74, but so for you to say that you saw him like in his prime, because '72, like that was right, he was still in his prime, great looking, incredibly charismatic, sexy guy. So to get face to face with him, like when you said that, my brain lit up.
right.
Yeah,
I
look,
thought you were frozen,
I'm
either
sure at the
frozen or
time
you
I
passed
was
out.
frozen. I think I froze also when it happened, but it's been a lot of years. But I was again lucky to see him in his. I mean, I would have loved to have seen him obviously in the '50s
Yeah.
when he was the really rockabilly Elvis. But I do love the later Elvis too. I love all Elvis, and seeing him at that time was great. It was when he was really just so beautiful and powerful, and It was right after the comeback special, which to
Yeah.
me, that's prime Elvis.
Was that at Madison Square Garden, you saw him? Yeah.
Yes.
Did
You
you
were
get
at
a
the
pic?
72 Madison Square Garden show? Oh my God. This gets even better.
Look at him.
Wow.
Well,
George Harrison
I
was there
never
that night.
could have been better
Everybody
if
was
he
there
don't
that
have
night.
the scarf. That would be the only thing better.
Uh,
Yeah, Bruce was there that night. It was the night that Bruce settled. No, it was the night that Bruce signed the contract with Mike
Mike
Appel.
Appel.
John Lennon was there. George Harrison was there. Maureen Van Zandt was there. Everybody was there.
Let me tell you something. If I had known that George Harrison was there, I would probably not have cared about anything.
Uh,
Well,
wow.
even though that was his peak, like George was not impressed. George did an interview and he said he didn't like all the singers and the backup singers and the symphony and all this stuff. Like George was very much into the 1956 Elvis and not the
Exactly. And
1972 Elvis.
it was, a bit of a spectacle, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. But I was just so happy to see him because I never thought I would get to see him.
Did
Yeah,
you get a picture with him? Did anyone take your picture with
No,
him? Ah.
no, I've never been one that wants to take pictures with people. I guess it's a weird thing. I like to keep memories in my head. I mean, it would have been nice looking back, I guess, but
Yeah.
you bring up a good point. Like the things that people make fun of him, and at this point in time, like he's been dead for almost 50 years. But things that people make fun of him about, thank you very much. The things that he ate, peanut butter and banana sandwich. Like there's a reason why he did all those things. And the thank you very much. That was his Southern upbringing. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. That's
exactly,
just how they talk to people. So it wasn't disrespectful in his mind. It was disrespectful to not talk to people that way.
exactly. And I got to see that in person.
Hmm.
Because they always say don't meet your idols, and so it's always a little scary going in. But he was not disappointing at all. He was just lovely, really.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Did you
Um,
ever see the Beatles?
Oh God, many times, yes.
Oh, many times.
Well, I shouldn't say many times, but a lot of people that I know have only seen them once. I saw them.
Oh my God.
Oh God, well, I mean, they didn't have a very long touring career. It was only a couple of years over here. So
right.
I guess maybe I saw them 6 times,
That's amazing.
maybe.
Shea Stadium. Did you see him at Shea?
I saw both Shea Stadium. I saw Forest Hill Tennis Stadium. I was at Carnegie Hall, and I saw them at the Washington Coliseum. I snuck down there on the train with my best friend. We were like 12 years old and cut school uh, and all of that. It was just it was just I didn't even think twice about it. Just did it. When it came to the Beatles, like all bets were off with me.
So do you remember anything about the sound? Because the reason I'm asking is Stevie was there at Shea, and he said the sound was okay. Like everybody complains about how the sound was terrible because they were using the PA system. Do you remember
Right.
anything about the sound?
He said the sound was fantastic. I, of course, was probably screaming and in the midst of a million screaming girls. I could hear them, and I got thrown out. So because
What?
my best friend and I ran out on the field because John Lennon was there, like, come on out here. I was like, okay, jumped over the 3 barricades and ran out in the field, got kicked out, and I could hear on the outside of the stadium, and it sounded fantastic. It sounded just like a record. So, so I know the sound was good, but unfortunately, I didn't get to experience it inside.
Hilarious. That I had a very similar experience seeing Bruce jumping the barricade. One of my friends jumped over the barricade to distract the guards, the security guards, and I
Right.
kept heading right for the stage. And I got third row, second row. I got my foot on the first row seat because everybody was standing up in front of the stage. Next thing I knew, I felt security right here pulling me back.
Where was this?
This was like in Buffalo
Oh,
in like 1984. Yeah,
so you know what it's like, Julie.
exactly. He was my Beatles, you know.
Exactly.
But I love the Beatles so much too.
Oh God.
So Maureen, you're very different from a lot of the other guests that we've had in the fact that you've got, you love rock and roll. You had that outlet with was it your uncle that was supplying the
Yes.
jukeboxes? So you have rock and roll, but you obviously have Broadway influence as well, so you had quite a cross current of different cultural venues going on.
Exactly. I mean, I was kind of a kid who sort of lived in my head a lot. I used to, you know, draw and make my own dolls and make clothing for them. I kind of liked being by myself and listening to music and reading and making things and all that. And I did have a lot of friends, but I really loved all those moments, and I still do. You know, I'm still very solitary in many ways.
So you were doing, I'm sorry, you joined the ballet company,
Yes.
and were you also doing fashion around that same time, at the same time?
Um, I studied fashion, but I didn't really do it as a full-time thing. I was a fitting model for a while. Like in the summers when I was dancing, in the summers we'd get laid off. Didn't have any job. So we'd have to do other things. So I did work as a fitting model for a while, as an assistant designer. Um, I worked for Ron Delstner, the concert promoter, during the summer. Yeah, so I had a lot of interesting little jobs here and there. But the fashion thing, I mean, I still, you know, will design things. I used to make a lot of my own clothes by hand because I was terrible with the sewing machine. Even though I went to school for it, I was absolutely awful. I'm awful with any machinery. Um, so yeah, I still, you know, I did all the things that I liked, but I didn't do them full time.
Gotcha. Okay, so I have to ask, your maiden name is Santoro, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Obviously Italian. I
Mhm.
asked Johnny Pisano last week about this. Gravy or sauce?
I think this will make me a very low class peasant, but we always called it gravy when I was a kid.
What? Okay, so you're talking about a whole different thing. So that's the what I found out from because I'm from the Midwest. I've lived in Illinois my whole life, but in the last 10 years I've been out there a ton. And the people I talk to, it's very regional. And what I think is people in New York proper call it gravy, and those outside call it sauce for some reason.
Oh God, because you know we called it gravy, and then when I in New Jersey, and then when I came to New York, everyone was laughing at me and said, "No, gravy is what you put on like turkey,
Exactly.
mashed potatoes," and so I try now to call it sauce just so I can embarrass myself, but it's still there. I mean, the gravy wants to come out.
Well, I'm very jealous of all the Italian food, the cooking. Anytime I talk to anybody that's got any Italian background, it's always about the food and the dishes that they make. So, do you like to cook? Are you a cook?
I do. I'm vegan, so I mean I can cook things for other people that I can't eat, which is frustrating. But I love everyone loves my eggplant parmesan.
That's Howie's favorite.
So, Howie, I'll make you some one of these days when I get back to cooking a lot. But yeah, I do like cooking because to me it's another creative thing. You know, it's not just making food. To me, it's how do you get it to, you know, taste a certain way and look a certain way. So I do like it, but I'm by no means any kind of gourmet chef. I make very simple things.
Got you.
But I learned how to do it all because my grandfather did most of the cooking in the family. So I used to hang around him and my grandmother. I used to always sneak out of school and go and hang out at their house. And so I just would watch them cooking. So I did learn how to make all that stuff.
If you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But can I ask, like, how far back you're, like, how many generations from the immigration?
My grandparents were from there, but no further than that.
Okay, so you're,
I mean, be beyond that. Yeah. So
gotcha,
my mother and father were both born here.
gotcha. All right, so I have Stevie's book, and if you don't mind, there's three short segments, and I'll read one. We'll talk about it, and then we'll move on to the next one, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, so people are asking. So, 1975.
Mhm.
One other thing happened at the bottom line, a big thing. Steve, meet Maureen. It was Twig, also known as Mark Greenberg. One of those friends who appeared out of nowhere and seemed like he had always been there. He was on our softball team. And since I don't know where Twig came from or why we even had a softball team, my memory tends to write the whole thing off as a Twilight Zone episode or a dream. Except I met Maureen. Wow, was she fine, sexy, a New Jersey Bridget Bardot. Always the prettiest girl in the room.
Winner.
Still is. Smart too. As it turned out, I always found smart, sexy, and later found out there's a word for that. And boy, was I a sap for her all the way. She had been a ballet dancer, a clothing designer, had gone to the art school in Newark, and then the High School of Performing Arts in Manhattan. She had an encyclopedic knowledge of 60s music and literature, and had studied acting with Herbert Berghoff, Stella Adler, and Bill Hickey. I'd never met anybody quite like her before or since. I started pursuing her immediately, but she managed to fight me off for quite a while. Did I mention she was smart?
Right, that puts my introduction to shame.
So that's the first time you met Steve was at the Bottom Line shows in '75?
Well, technically, if my memory is not completely off, I met him very, very briefly at one of those softball games, earlier
Mm.
than the bottom line. Maybe that same year, but earlier on. And Twig, again, who I call Mark, I've been friends with him since I was about 15, I think. Um, he said, you have to come down and watch this softball game and what this band is playing. I'm like, I have no idea who this band is. Can't stand sports, and he's like, just come down with me for the day. So I believe that I did meet him then, but we didn't really spend any time together. But yes, bottom line was, I guess, the official introduction.
So you were one of the, well, at this point in time, 10,000 people claimed to have been at the Bottom Line, even though only about 500 could fit in there. So you were there at the Bottom Line shows.
Yes, I think just one, maybe a couple. Can't really remember because it was such a crazy time, but I might have been at a couple of them. But I wasn't there with Steven. I was there because my friend brought me.
So before that, did you know about Bruce and the band? Did
No,
you like, okay.
I didn't really know because the extent of my music knowledge and fandom was mostly British bands. And that was kind of all I was interested in. I was very specific about the music I liked. Jimi Hendrix, partly British, and not he's American, but obviously, but the band was British. So those kind of bands, Cream and Traffic and all this stuff, those were the bands that Free. Um, I loved all those bands, and I sort of didn't really pay attention to a lot of other music. So, and also being from New Jersey, but I was very much a New York girl by then. I moved to New York 71, I think. So I was kind of away from the Jersey scene. That's why when he said, come and see this band in this softball game, I have no idea who was talking about.
Did you go to Woodstock, Maureen?
I did.
You
Oh,
did?
wow.
How old were you?
Just for one day.
Oh.
I was 3 years old.
She was in a backpack.
Yeah.
I was one of those babies in the mud that was born. Yeah, I was just there for not even a full day, just for a few hours. I was going out with Jimi Hendrix's drummer.
You got to write a book.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, everyone says to me, oh, you should write a book, because I've had some very crazy experiences in my life, but I don't like talking about other people too much. And,
Yeah.
it's just, it doesn't feel right to me. I mean, if I have good things to say, of course,
Right.
that's fine, but.
So were you there was it Monday morning, right? When Jimmy played?
Yeah,
Were you at that?
he didn't get on until it was Monday morning, so I saw a little bit of what surrounded him, but not much more than that. And by then, people were, it was a mess.
Yeah.
People, look, I was lucky I wasn't out in the crowd or anything, but it was still a mess. By then, some people had left. I mean, some people couldn't even get out. It was just insanity.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a sort of kind of vague memory, but because it was so short. So it was not there for all 3 days. I didn't want to go. I mean, a lot of friends of mine went, and I was like, I'm not an outdoors girl. I'm not going to go, sit outside and camp or, sit in rain and mud. Just not me. So I didn't go for that reason, but I did go for that last few moments.
And did you see Hendrix other times too? Jimi Hendrix?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. I saw him a lot around town, and he used to hang out at a club that I used to go to with my friends. It was called The Scene on 46th Street in Manhattan. And at the time, I was doing the show Hair I was not an original cast, but I kind of came in later on, and it was about 2 blocks away. So every night after the show, or even when it wasn't show nights, I'd go to this club and hang out. And Jimmy was there almost every night, so I would see him get up and play with other people. I saw him play at other places. I saw him play at the. It was the site of the 1964 World's Fair. They kept the stage there. I forget what it's called. But yeah, I saw him there. There was a club called Salvation that he used to play at a lot. So I did get to see him play in some clubs. And, you know, just an amazing, amazing sight to see, you know, everything that you could imagine. You know, he was very, very introverted and reserved in real life. But when he got on stage, that's where that's where he gave everything. So it was, again, lucky to be a fly on the wall for that.
Stan, you brought up Woodstock. I just happened to listen to the interview last night that Melissa Ziobro did with Preston Lauterbach, who wrote a book about Elvis. Um, I guess Big Mama Thornton was the one who first recorded Hound Dog, written by Lieber and Stoller, but she recorded it first. Elvis became a huge hit, but Big Mama Thornton was at Woodstock performing because like somehow during that time when like the oldies acts were going, Big Mama Thornton was at Woodstock and she didn't know what to take of all these naked white kids running around. So Maureen, were you traveling overseas at all during that time? You know when you said you were big into the British bands, were you going over to Europe?
I had been to London a couple of times, like late 60s, early 70s, and I ended up living there for a little, like about a year and a half. So I was there a lot in the beginning, and then I didn't go for several years later. Well, I think probably the next time I went after I lived there was after I was with Steven, and I went over there for I guess it was the River Tour. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so part two, you meet Steven at Bottom Line. Next, I had been chasing Maureen ever since our Bottom Line gigs in '75. I finally caught her on New Year's Eve, 1977. On our first date, I dragged her to the Seen Its Best Days Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey for the Jukes concert. Every girl's dream of a romantic New Year's.
But it
But I
was.
felt obligated since it was their first theater gig, a major rite of passage, and I was still their manager. After she visited my world, it was time for me to visit hers. What I couldn't have known is that she was about to expand my understanding and perspective of art from sketchpad to cinemascope. Maureen took me to my first ballet at the Metropolitan Opera House. After playing joints my whole life, I felt like I was walking into the palace of the gods. The red plush velvet seats, not ripped and worn and stained like the Fillmores, the massive velvet curtain, the incredible chandelier that went up as the lights went down, and then Tchaikovsky. What a divine discovery. My first real experience with classical music was ballet music at its most exhilarating, melodic, dynamic, enlightening, supreme, delicious, a brand new trip, the latest epiphany. I fell in love with Maureen and then with ballet soon after.
Oh, love
So that was your first real date, was going to see Southside and the Jukes in Passaic on New Year's.
It was, yes, and it was it was quite an experience. I totally and thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember that Stephen got into a fight backstage with somebody. I can't remember who it was, but there was some big, some problem with sound. It's always about the sound, you know. That's the thing that he'll go crazy about it at any show. So it had to be something to do with that, and he ended up having a fight with this guy. It wasn't like a, you know, physical fight, but it got pretty heated. And I thought, okay, you know, this is my kind of guy.
Wow.
So you had been, I guess the dichotomy there is, you know, you're in both worlds. You're in the classical world, you're in classical music, ballet, rock, obviously, but rock was all that he knew. So he gets exposed to this whole new side of culture that he hadn't really experienced before.
Yeah, it was funny because I do remember taking him to the ballet, and the thing that he was absolutely fascinated by was the chandelier. that they have in the Met. There are several of them, and they actually had called them Sputnik because it looks like very 60s Sputnik thing. I just learned that they're called Sputnik after all these years and having worked there and everything. But he just spent like the whole first few minutes just looking up and they at a certain point when the curtain's about to open, they rise up. And I don't think he'd ever seen anything so fascinating in his life, and still talks about it. And every time we go, he still looks up at chandeliers and waits for them to go up. So it's really kind of cute.
So knowing that you were a reader and you had been your whole life, he talks about 1980 kind of being that time where he really got kind of involved and aware and started doing a lot of reading and getting involved with, social events and everything. So were you exposing him to literature too at that same time that
I'm
you
not
remember?
sure. I think we have very different tastes in literature. I like more romantic things and historical things. I mean, he likes the history too, but he became much more interested in reading about the world and politics and he likes action things. Um, he likes guy type things, and I like girl type things. I hate to say it, but that's kind of it. So, I mean, I'm sure there were certain things that um, we both read. I'm a very big fan of Tennessee Williams, was a playwright, obviously, but I would get him to read his plays and
Mhm.
Hemingway, and well, Hemingway was really the inspiration for his Men Without Women
Mm.
record,
Hmm.
the book Men Without Women that Hemingway wrote. So I think we had those kind of things in common. But then once he got into the political study, that was something that I really didn't understand or really have an interest in it, to be quite honest.
Got it. You said romance. Somebody asked earlier when we were talking about literature, Danielle Steele. Like what kind of, when you say romance, what kind of romance do you like to read?
I would say more of the older ones like Madame Bovary and Anna Karenina and War and Peace, those kind of classics. The newer romantic things, not so into that. I think I really belong in another time, which he says in a song about me, I think. But yeah, I like Victorian type stuff. I like Russian literature. To me, all that stuff is very, very romantic.
Gotcha. All right, part three, and then I'm done with the reading lesson for today. Um, sorry. I was not the marrying kind. How many guys have said that? Possibly all of us. I love the single life, answering to no one, no responsibilities, no guilt, no checking in, no schedule, no plans.
And he still has that.
But then there was Maureen. I had pursued her since the infamous bottom line shows, but once I reached her, I really reached her. I took her to Venice and proposed under the Bridge of Sighs. If I was going to get married, I might as well do it right. We set a date for December 31st, 1982, 5 years to the date since we had first gone out. Little Richard had left rock and roll. This still blows my mind. I don't care how many times I listen to this or hear this,
And my,
to join the ministry, so we talked him into officiating. Bruce Willis would steal the idea 5 years later with no credit. You're welcome, pal. Percy Sledge sang When a Man Loves a Woman as we came down the aisle at an old ballet studio on Manhattan's East Side, Harkness House. Little Milton performed. Jesus, I can't. No, not nobody but Stevie would even think about this stuff. Little Milton performed along with the band from the Godfather movie. Oh my God. Unfortunately, little Anthony was working a cruise ship and couldn't get out of it, and little Walter was long gone. Otherwise, I would have had all the littles. Bruce was my best man, and the wedding party included, on my side, Jay Cox, Max Weinberg, Gary Talent, Jimmy Iovine, Gary Bonds, Gene and Monty from the first version of the Disciples, my brother Billy, my roadie Ben. God damn.
Wow.
How many people did you have?
I think I had 10 bridesmaids, so that's how many guys he had.
Wow.
Well, he had to have all his friends in it. He couldn't leave anybody out, so that's why it got bigger and bigger and bigger every day.
I don't remember much else other than our 200 guests were augmented by another 100 or so crashing and stealing all the gifts. We had everything taken care of except security. Fun though, I'm told. I don't remember any of this, but it was fun, I'm told.
Wow.
What a wedding.
I remember some of it, but not all of it. I think almost everybody will probably say that about their wedding because it's just, it's a surreal experience. And this one was more surreal than most, I think.
A
My
little
favorite
bit.
part of this, my favorite part of the story is, as Bruce tells it, you met with little Richard and you were like, we don't really want all the Jesus stuff. Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure. The minute he starts, praise Jesus.
Exactly. I mean, he went off and went in a room with him before the thing. And I think Bruce and Stephen met with him separately, but then I was there because he was going to go over what he was going to read or say. And it was a rather, sedate, kind of cool, but nothing crazy. And then he went up there and just let loose. Which is great. I mean, if you see photos from the wedding, you'll see all of our faces. Bruce, myself, and Stephen, and my maid of honor were kind of like, "What is going on?" But it was fun. I mean, that's what makes something special. I think I would have been disappointed really if he just read that boring thing. But I wish I could really remember it. I think I was just too nervous and crazy to really appreciate it, and I regret that. But everybody else who was there gave me all these great accounts of it, and so I kind of know what was going on. And we filmed a lot of it. Of course, the tapes kind of vanished except for one.
Ah,
Um, yeah, really another regret. But again, I have no idea what happened to them. I think they were stolen. Um, However, they've never surfaced, so maybe they weren't.
mm,
It was a trip. I mean, the band from The Godfather, that
crazy.
that was his idea. Little Milton. I had no idea who Little Milton was, but he wanted him there, and he was there. And Percy Slade. Yeah, it was crazy. Little Richard. I mean, nothing compared with that though.
Yeah.
So what happened to like the Catholic school upbringing? No church marriage?
Out the window. I think I had a little too much Catholic school, but we had originally planned to get married in Italy and have one of those, walking in the street like
Oh
the
yeah.
father weddings. But then, and we were only going to invite a small amount of people, and then everyone, we and both have big Italian families, and they were so offended that they weren't invited. So we had to kind of, change the plans a bit
Oh
and
yeah.
do it in New York. But yeah, I mean, I think by that point, both of us, didn't feel that it had to be a religious thing.
I'm just wondering about the parents, like how the parents dealt with that.
um, my mother was always kind of cool with anything, and Stephen's parents also, and his father,
Mm.
stepfather, I should say, he was Baptist, so I don't think any of them really cared. I think they had a great time, and they were very happy, to be there, and very happy for us. And I'm so lucky I had the most fantastic in-laws ever. And they just always were very, very supportive of everything.
That's
They're gone.
great.
My parents are gone, but we were lucky. I mean, when we were younger, I'm sure I know Stephen battled with his father quite a bit, and I with my mother. But at that point, everybody was just great about everything.
Somebody
Nice.
asked a good question. What did your parents think about Stevie? Like the first time you brought him?
My father was gone by then. My father died relatively young, so before I met Stephen.
Okay.
And I wish they had met because they were two of a kind and would have gotten along really, really great. And he always kind of reminded me of my father in many ways. My mother just loved him. I mean, first time she met him, I think it was Christmas, I guess 77 or something like that. And he is the most extravagant, generous person. And he went out and he said, "Well, I'm going to meet your mother." He went out and bought all these presents. I mean, like a ton of presents for her, for my little sisters and everything. So we showed up at this house and it was like, you know,
Christmas.
Santa Claus was there. So my mother was instantly, but no, she loved him. He always fit in extremely easily and well with my family. My brothers-in-law are, you know, very similar to him in many ways, not in other ways, but they've always gotten along. He came into the family and just fit right in, and I think I did with his family as well.
That's great.
Very, very, very close with his sister and brother, and his brother walked me down the aisle, in fact.
Oh, wow.
because I didn't have my father, and I was, very, very close with his family, and I still am. So that all of that was nice.
For those of you watching, Billy Van Zandt wrote a book a few years ago that I got and read. It's excellent. He's been a long time involved with TV, movies, writer. It's really good. It's really funny, touching, but he gets into a lot of behind the scenes stuff about what it takes to be a writer on shows and everything. So check it out for anybody
It
else out
is.
there.
It's a really, really fun read, even if you don't know Billy or know what he's done. It's such a great book, fun writing, and things you probably never hear anywhere else. It's cool.
So you guys have been married now for almost what, 45 years roughly?
Um,
That's pretty.
nine- 1982. So yeah,
92,
Wow.
wow.
yeah, almost 45 years.
Yeah.
That's a pretty, I mean, for anybody, I don't care I don't care what line of work you're in, where you come from. 45 years being married is pretty few and far between nowadays, but especially in rock and roll with music, as we all know. Any secrets to a successful long marriage?
Well, I would say we've probably been together really 20 of those years because of all the traveling and the separations. And the only secret I would say, and it's not really a secret, I think you have to have your own life
Mm,
and your own interests.
mm,
And then you can appreciate time that you have together.
Mm.
And to me, it's as simple as that.
right.
And when I say have your own life, I don't mean have a separate life, but I mean have your own interests, friends, things that you do. Maybe the other person is not that interested, and they should go off and do what they want to do. And I think that's it. And especially in this kind of marriage where he travels a lot, um, I think you have to be the kind of person who can deal with that. And like I said earlier, I like to be alone a lot. So it works out very nicely, really.
Maureen, if
Great.
I could ask about the Sopranos, how did it work out that you got on the show too? Was Stevie first and then you auditioned? Tell us about that.
Well, he had gotten the show, and he was on it for a year. And at the wrap party, the casting director came up to me and she said, because I'd never told any that I'd been acting. I mean, I had a theater company by that time, a little theater company, and I just kind of, kept pretty quiet about it. Um, but one of the guys who I'd been working with in acting class was Paul Schulze, who played Father Phil on the show. And the casting director said, Paul told me that, that you're an actor and that he's worked with you. And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, we need a new wife for Silvio in the second season. I don't know if they were not happy with the person they had. I don't think she really had anything to do. So I don't think it was any kind of, slur on her. I just think that maybe they're just looking to do something different, and asked if I would want to come and audition. And my first thought was, shouldn't do it because, like I said, I think you keep things separate. Things sometimes are much easier and calmer. But I really thought about it for a long time, and I asked him, and he said, sure. I mean, he was all for it. And he said, come on, you have to do it. And I thought, you know what, I'm not getting the part anyway, so I'll go and audition, and just for fun, just to see what happens, just to see
Mm.
if I could do it. And it was very scary to me. I went to read for the first time. There were like hundreds of women sitting in the hallway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe 200. It could have been less than that. It just seemed like it was hundreds of women, but there were quite a few, and they all looked Italian. And I thought, I'm definitely not getting this. Everybody had, dark hair, beautiful, olive skin. And I thought, there's no way I'm getting this. So then I kind of was, not that I didn't care, but I wasn't as nervous because I didn't think I had a chance in hell to get it. And then they cut it down to 4 people, and I was one of the 4 people. And I said to Stephen, I said, did you tell them to hire me? And he's like, no, absolutely not. And the truth is that, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So it was down to 4 of us, and we had to go and audition in front of the entire creative team of the show. So we had to go in this room and up on this platform thing and do a scene. And it was terrifying because it was David Chase there. And then, everybody who worked on the show, people that I'd met at these, social events that, I just thought of them as like friends. I didn't think I was going to have to, prove myself in front of them. So that was frightening. And then there was this one actress there who she was from a soap opera and she played like a very tough Italian type. I'm like, oh, she's definitely getting it. I don't care about this. And then I got a phone call saying I got it. And I still, kept saying to Stephen, are you sure you didn't make them hire me? And he said, no. And what I found out later was that they had a very, strong policy of no one could like recommend somebody. And if they did in the personal audition, there was no guarantee that they were going to get the part. So that made me feel a little bit better about taking it because I didn't want to, take a job that I didn't think that I deserved or earned in any way. And so that's really how it happened. I was very hesitant to do it for a while. And then I just thought, just try to have fun. And that was,
So you hadn't really done acting though back when you were back earlier, right? So was that the first time that you had actually?
I had acted when I was a kid. Um, and I had acted in when I went back to college. I ended up in the theater department, so I did act there, and I had acting classes, and then I started this little theater company before I was on Sopranos. But that I did off Broadway stuff. I did not do any. I didn't do film, or I mean, I was in a couple of films, but as a dancer, The Turning Point, stuff like that, but not as an actor. So this was my first on-camera acting job. It
What was
was,
that like for you as a, transitioning into that where you're on set, for 12, 16-hour days on end?
yeah, I mean, I didn't mind that part of it. I kind of liked it because I love the whole work process of everything. But what I couldn't get about is that I was used to doing plays and, further back ballets, which is telling a story from start to finish. And you don't do that on TV or in film. So I couldn't get it like, okay, I'm doing a scene that's like at the end of the episode. And I always kind of felt I was not really um, connecting as well as I should because I wasn't used to working like that. So, but I got used. I mean, I didn't have a very big part, so it wasn't like I had to carry a whole show or anything like that. But it was interesting. The first scene that I did was with Edie Falco, and it was the two of us in a hospital walking down a hallway. And it was a pretty long scene, which was cut because they cut everything. Um, if they put everything in as it is, the show would be like 5 hours long. But it was a very long scene, and it was scary. And before we started shooting, I kind of panicked, and I said to her, I've never done TV before, and she said to me, nobody has to know. So it kind of put me at ease, and we did it, and it never got easy. It was always kind of a nerve-wracking experience to me because I felt fish out of water very, very much. But it was, again, I keep saying this word, I was very lucky. I mean, how could I not feel grateful to be on probably the biggest TV show of all time and
Yeah.
to be a part of that, even a small part of it was an honor.
Did you ever think it would be that big? As you just said, I've seen polls where they say this is the best TV show of all time. Did you ever imagine that at the time?
Well, I think I didn't get into it until the second year, but the first year it was already big.
Yeah.
But it got crazier and crazier. I mean, I didn't really see the extent of it until we would go to these personal appearance type things, and people, like the Beatles, like Elvis, people grabbing at you, screaming, hysterical, and I'm thinking for a TV show. But yeah, it was. I can't imagine what it was like for the principal actors. I mean, they couldn't go anywhere for all those years without being mobbed. But yeah, I mean, I after the first year, I think was pretty obvious that it was something that was going to be around for a while because it was just written so beautifully. The casting, the actings, it had every element that to me would say it's going to be a success.
One quote I always remember Edie saying was that her and Gandolfini would say that they felt like kids and playing in the sandbox, like they were just given this freedom. They were just kids. They walked in, the first season they didn't know how serious it was going to be and how big it was going to be, obviously. So they were just playing around like kids, and they just could not believe the luck that they had in finding those roles and how what it turned out to be.
Exactly, and you have to remember, people didn't really know them. They'd done other work, but they weren't known actors, big stars, and I think they probably went into it thinking, I got nothing to lose here. It's a great script, great crew. Let's just have fun with it. And that, I mean, that's who they are as actors. I mean, they were just willing to go anywhere and risk anything, and they were brilliant. And you really learned by being around them and watching them.
Well, when you watch the show, and several people are saying that you did a phenomenal job, uh, when I watch it, for me, your part in it was not that you were just different. That you weren't the classic Italian look with the black hair and the olive skin. You are what you are. So it was a little different to see somebody else that didn't fit necessarily into that narrow profile. So when you had your scenes and you were good, it just was different for me as a viewer to watch.
Well, I did get some criticism for that. That people felt that I wasn't being the typical Italian mob housewife. But the truth is, I grew up around that.
Mm.
I based it. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and very mob related family members and friends. And the women that I watched were not like tough Italian women. They were like just regular women that like to get their hair done, their nails done, and the guys would bring them jewelry and fur coats, and so that's kind of how I thought of Gabby. I didn't think that she was going to be a mob boss or be tough or threatening people. I just thought she's there, and she's getting benefits from this life, and she knows that her husband is probably out screwing around. He's killing people. God knows what else, but she just was there getting what she was getting out of it, and didn't have any aspirations to anything much bigger than that. I think she's just enjoying her life, and that's how I saw it, because I grew up around these women. I didn't really see any of them um, being mob bosses. That they were. I think they had a certain place in that world, and that's what I tried to bring into it. Of course, a lot of people thought that it was not accurate, but for what I grew up with, it was accurate.
My favorite scene of yours is when Tony's out of commission and Syl steps in to fill that void, and he's the guy. He's having panic attacks left and right. He's getting carted out in an ambulance. But there was a scene where you're like in your bedroom and he's getting dressed and he's like worried about, is this really me? Is this who I am? Is this what I want to do? Just your part in that conversation and that scene was just phenomenal. Like you as a wife, as a confidant, just great stuff.
It was funny because one of my friends called it my Lady Macbeth scene, and I thought, really,
Mm.
because I always thought it as her Gabby being very soft. But I think there was also that element where she's encouraging him in that scene, like, yeah, you can do this. Like the times make the man, or I said some line like that, or the man makes the times, not the time makes. But I said something that I guess could be seen as that, which was interesting.
Well, you're great in Sopranos. You were in Lilyhammer for some episodes there. Another great show for anybody that's at home watching. If you have Netflix and you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, check out Lilyhammer. Phenomenal show. It was the very first, yeah, it was the very first produced show by Netflix. You were in the Christmas Chronicles, and I looked up your IMDb a couple days ago. There's something that's already in pre-production called Iron Terry Malone. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's a script that one of my friends wrote. That we have not started doing any work on it yet, but it's a great script.
Okay. Yeah, it just said pre-production, so I didn't know quite exactly what that meant.
Yeah, it has not. We have not started any work on it yet, but I think it's going to be a good project. So hopefully, I haven't been doing too much acting lately. I went back to teaching, really.
Yeah.
I was teaching acting to ballet dancers. Um, which was very interesting. And also, I started teaching at HB Studios in New York, just regular acting classes. And then I went during COVID, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I don't know why. I'm just thinking, Zoom always reminds me of teaching acting, because when COVID happened, we couldn't have our classes anymore, so we did classes on Zoom. So I did that once a week, you know, class of like 20 people on Zoom, and we made it work, which was a lifesaver during that time.
Yeah.
So it kept everybody working and everybody going. I mean, not working financially, but it kept people acting and studying, and you know, we were all still connected. So um, that kind of saved our lives right at that time.
Tell us about the Garage Girls a Go-Go.
um, when I was younger, I'd also done some go-go dancing in the clubs in New York. Again, one of some of my bizarro odd jobs, and and you know, I had not revisited that, obviously, you know, for many years. And Stephen was doing this festival, the Underground or the Garage Festival at Randall's Island. I think it was 2004, and he said, we need to have some go-go girls for this. And I said, okay. And I'd had this little group of about maybe 8 girls that we would sometimes do videos for rock bands, or we play at some, we perform at some shows that bands were playing at. And it was a very small group. And I said, okay, well, you know, I'll get some girls together. He's like, no, I need like 60 or 70. You know, nothing on a small level with him. I thought, okay, so I held auditions, and I found all these girls, and my sisters and I did all the costumes, and you know, got my cousin in to do the hair and makeup. I mean, it was just like a crazy family affair. We did this huge festival. There had to be like 100 bands, and Iggy Pop um, headed the bill with the dolls, and it was an insane day with a revolving stage, and it was just real madness. And but the high point of it for me was that we got to dance with Nancy Sinatra. These boots are made for walking, and
Wow.
choreography for that, and I
Yeah.
get to perform on stage with her, but my dancers did, and it was just such a huge highlight of my life, because I, of course, loved her when I was younger, and loved that song, and really looked up to her. And we did a few more shows with her too. Whenever she had some club shows, we'd go and dance with her. So that was something fun that came out of that festival. And after that, we did a bunch of gigs with different people. Like I said, a lot of music videos and things like that. Currently not together. All the girls have kind of, you know, split off into other things, but I'm ready to put the band back together again whenever it's needed.
Hey.
Julie would like to audition.
You know me.
Bring in Julie.
I fear the stage. Thanks anyway.
Oh, I fear the stage too, but I just pretend it's not me up there.
I know that feeling.
So 2 Broadway questions for you. One is which The Wonder Dion story that's coming out. I
Okay,
believe
yes.
you and Stevie are involved in that as producers, or involved.
We're co-producers. We've well, Stephen's known Dion since early '70s. Before he was in the E Street Band, he did an oldies circuit,
Right.
mostly in Vegas, and Dion was playing on that. And they got to be very friendly there. And you know, over the years, I've also become friendly with Susan, his wife, and Dion, and you know, they're the loveliest people. And these people who we had just met through Dion, Jill Menza, producer, and Charles Messina, who wrote the play, they put together this fantastic show called The Wanderer. It's about Dion's life and uses all his music in it. It played at the Paper Mill Playhouse and was hugely successful. We were about to take it to Broadway. At this point, we were not officially producers, but just big supporters of the show. It was about to go to Broadway, and then COVID happened. So everything went out the window. Investors obviously, you know, took their money, didn't want to, you know, continue until they knew things would be open again, obviously. And so there was a gap there of about 4 or 5 years where nothing could be done with the show. So we've now put it back together. Just did a reading, a staged reading a couple of weeks ago for industry people, and it was a really smashing success. So we're now heading towards Broadway again. We just need a theater. You know, that's the thing with Broadway, that there are only so many theaters, and there happen to be a ton of shows, so you have to wait. You know, sadly, for something to close. Um, but the show is kind of pretty much ready to go. So
Right.
hopefully everything will work out this time, and got some great people involved in it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's great. Dion's one of the last, original first generation rock and rollers that's still around, and he's still doing great music, still putting out great music all the time.
Better than ever. His latest albums have actually been some of his best sellers, and he's just totally with it. I mean, he's just the coolest, hippest guy to be around. He's really he's just brilliant in every way, and a really lovely person. And again, surreal for me because when I was 9 or 10 years old, I used to go to a soda fountain, which they called them back then, and play Run Around Sue on the jukebox and dance to it. And and now I'm friends with Dion and working with him, and it's
It's
just
crazy.
an incredible honor, really. He's one of the greats.
One of the highlights for me in my life was like my dad was born in 42, so he like loved all the first generation rock and roll stuff. And he ended like at 1964 Beatles, like that was it. Anyway, I took my dad to see Dion be interviewed by Dave Marsh at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. It was like 10 or 12 years ago. And Dion showed a documentary that he had put together about the Winter Dance Party and what happened. And for those of you watching, Dion wasn't supposed to be the fourth person on the plane. It wasn't supposed to be Waylon Jennings. It wasn't supposed to be anything. Dion was like one of the headliners, so it made no sense for Waylon Jennings to be that person. But anyway, the story is the cost of the plane was going to be like $55, and
$36.
that's $36. Thank you. I knew it was in that ballpark, but yes, $36, and that's the exact amount that Dion's parents paid for their rent every month, and it was a hassle. They fought tooth and nail to pay that $36 every month his whole life, and he could not bring himself to spend $36 for a flight. So he said, "Nope, I'm not doing it.
Oh my,
Otherwise, we would not have had the Dion that we know all these years."
Exactly. That's a scene of the play, which is really great
Really?
because Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and Richie Valens are all there in the play together in this scene, trying to talk him into going on the plane. And he says, "No, I can't do it. My parents pay $36 a month for their apartment, and I just can't do it."
please.
And sadly, Richie Valens wasn't supposed to be on the plane. Dion was. Was only room for 3 people, aside from the pilot. And Dion was one of the 3 people, but when he gave up his spot, Richie happened to be sick. He had a cold, and everyone said, "Richie, you're not feeling well. You shouldn't go on that freezing cold bus with no heat. Get on the plane." So that's sadly what happened, and I can't even imagine what Dion felt.
Mm.
Happened. Very sad.
Well, it's one of the reasons I'm sure this is in the story. Like that's one of the reasons why he's had some of the issues that he had was this terrible survivor's guilt, and that led him to other, things that he did in his life because he just couldn't live with himself.
Yeah, and his story is just so inspiring because he got through all that and the real survivor.
Hmm.
Story of redemption and love and everything that he stands for.
One of my favorite stories about Dion involves Bruce, but Bruce only knows Dion through Stevie, obviously. But this is whatever year it was, the Hall of Fame did the 25th anniversary show at the Madison Square Garden, and Dion
2009.
was there. 2009. Thank you, Julie. The story goes that they all had their rehearsal spaces and rehearsal rooms, and Dion's in a room and he's doing The Wanderer, and Bruce is walking down the hallway and he hears him. He pops his head in there. He's standing in the background, and Dion's playing along, and all of a sudden he sees Bruce waving his arms, and he like stops. He's like, "What? What do you want?" And Bruce is like, "Dude, you missed a whole verse." So Dion just skipped over a whole verse, and Bruce is the one that caught it and had to remind him, "Hey, you need to go back and redo this verse."
I think Dion is as big a fan of Bruce as Bruce is of Dion.
Oh,
In
love
fact,
that.
one of his songs is in the show, so it's the only non-Dion song, I think.
Cool.
Well, Dion's had Bruce and Patty on a couple of the songs in the last 10 or 15 years. Has Stevie done any songs with him
I think
recently?
I think he did play one of the recent albums. Yeah, maybe the blues one. I'm not sure. You know, Dion
Yeah.
is so prolific. He's puts out a lot of albums, and I know he worked on one of them, but I can't remember which one.
Okay. The other Broadway question for you was about Once Upon a Dream.
Oh yeah, the Rascals.
Tell us about that.
Um, well, one of Stephen's dreams was to get the Rascals back together again. That band meant a lot to him, and he was asked to induct them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is how David Chase saw him and wanted him for Sopranos because he loved his little performance that he did that night. And you know, the band showed up for that, but they didn't get along, didn't ever want to play together. And he had over the years tried to get them together, and it just really wasn't working. Um, but the way it came together is that we were honored by, you know, the Kristen Ann Carr Foundation, which is Barbara Carr's and Dave Marsh's foundation in honor of their daughter Kristen, who, you know, I'm sure everybody watching this knows, and she's a young, beautiful woman that, you know, died way too young. And it's a benefit for, you know, cancer charities and things like that. Anyway, they were honoring us, and they asked what we'd like to do. They gave us a lot of freedom, so we, you know, had the whole place decorated like 60s with lava lamps and very psychedelic and all that. And Stephen decided, well, we need to get the Rascals to play at this. Everyone said, you know, okay, not going to happen. Somehow he got it to happen. They played this gig. They all got along great, and then we put the Broadway show together. And you know, it was such a good show. It was a very interesting show because it was multimedia. A lot of it was on a giant screen, and then we had the band on stage, and we told their story on the screen with interviews with them, and then we had also some scenes acted out by actors um, uh, on screen, and then they would play the songs in between. So it really told their story pretty chronologically. And you know, Stevie wrote the script, and we had our friend Mark Brickman, who had been Bruce's lighting guy for many years, and then ended up with Pink Floyd, and you know, doing lots of huge. I think he's the guy who does all the designs for the Empire State Building, uh, the lighting up there.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was quite a genius. So we put this show together, and we got on Broadway. It was always supposed to be a limited run, and it was. I think we only had maybe 3 weeks that we could do it because another show was coming into the Richard Rodgers Theater, which no one had heard of, Hamilton. So they had they I think they had this time slot. Like I said, you have to wait for a theater. You have to wait for someone to, you know, get kicked out or before someone else is coming in. But anyway, the theater was available. Richard Rodgers Theater. We came in. We did the show for 3 weeks. Sold out every night. Hugely popular. Great critical success. Um, we then took it on the road, and it was doing really well. And then, of course, as happens a lot, the band started not to get along again, and it just became difficult to sustain it. However, we did keep a very strong relationship with Eddie Brigati, and we produced a cabaret show for him at the Cutting Room, which is also very successful. And we still work with Eddie a lot. We brought him into. We're on the board of Rocket Academy, which is it's I guess you would call it. It's not really a school academy type thing, but what they do is they keep rock and roll alive by training young musicians to play. And these kids are great musicians, and they've kept that. Bruce Gallipanti is the guy who runs it, and we met him because we got honored at the Count Basie, and the kids happened to perform in the show. But anyway, we got Eddie involved with them, so he is their biggest mentor now, and he performs with them all the time. And so we're still very, very close with Eddie. And I wish the show could have gone on because we were invited to come back to Broadway, but by that point it was not going to work out because of the rift with some of the band members. So, but it was again a really interesting and great experience. It was fun. being
I
there.
saw this show. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, I was just saying it was fun being there every night. It just was a treat.
I live close to Chicago, and I actually came to Chicago for a couple dates, and I saw one of the shows. It was fantastic. Like it was phenomenal. I wasn't sure what I was, in for when I went in, but I was absolutely
Right.
blown away.
Yeah, it was a very different show, and we did a run in Toronto, which was also very successful. And then as the tour went on, then it kind of fell apart. But I wish we could have continued because I think the audiences were really loving it, and people were
Mm.
coming back to see it, many times. And but again, it's a nice memory. I got to bring my dog on stage one night, so I'm happy.
Yeah. Maureen, they just announced American Music Honors at Monmouth University in April, and I think Stevie inducted Dion a couple years ago, and
Right.
the Doors are being honored this year. Did you ever see Jim Morrison in the Doors?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh wow.
And my girlfriend used to date Jim Morrison, if you can call it that,
Wow.
for a very short time. So, I mean, I can't say I knew him. I did, get to, to meet him a bit. And I think a lot of the stuff that you've seen about Jim is probably true. Very, very charismatic and interesting person. And of course, I love the Doors. So,
I think we share the same love for the same band. I think you like the Cult, right?
oh, I love the Cult. Yeah.
Me too. So I remember
Oh, you do?
talking about it one time. So that's like one of the newer bands, not the Doors and the
Yeah, I
Beatles.
mean,
But
for me, it's a new band. That's about as far back as I go.
oh, I love the Cult as well. So
Fantastic. Really,
yeah.
really great. We saw them a few months ago up the Beacon. It was
Oh,
great.
really?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, great show.
Great. Billy Duffy, great guitarist. Great guitarist.
Blaze, yes, Jim was hot. I had my Doors stage. Jim was hot, but he was kind of out there to some degree. So
Yeah,
be careful what you wish for.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, Maureen, sorry. Swati said she just saw Eddie and the kids from Rocket play 2 weeks ago at the cutting room. So good, and the kids were truly talented.
They are. I mean, they're very well trained, very disciplined, and they're good kids. They're nice kids, and they want to learn. And what really makes me happy is that they love rock music.
Mm.
And the music that they're playing is not current music. They're not playing pop music. They're playing all of those bands that I grew up with and loved, and they're appreciating the music and making it sound new because they're these young people doing it. So it's they're very inspirational to me. I love these kids, and hope to be spending more time with them soon.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Is Rocket part of, is it an offshoot of Teach Rock at all, or is that a totally separate?
No, they used to be connected with the Count Basie Theater because they have a performing arts center there, and then they broke away, and they now have um, Brookdale College in New Jersey gave them performance space and rehearsal space, so they have this great situation going there, and that's where they train all the kids, and it's just wonderful. And we do scholarships every year, and I think 4 kids a year get a scholarship. And they have bands, but they're sort of interchangeable bands. You might, see the same kids in 5 different bands with different artists. And what I love about it also is that the girls play drums and bass. It's not just a girl getting up there and being a singer. These girls, and young women, I should call them. They're not girls. Some of them are quite young. They do it all. And to me, that's really exciting to see because I think when I was younger, girls were not really encouraged to be in a band. It was sort of like we were the ones who went to see the band. But it's really, everything's different now. But I love.
That's cool.
Very cool. I think that's all the questions I have. Howie, Julie, Stan?
I just have one quick one. Maureen, after all these years, do you still enjoy going on the road, being backstage at the shows, seeing Bruce and the band play? Or the Disciples of Soul too, I should say.
I,
Dan.
I always enjoy the shows, but the truth is I don't go that often anymore. Um, the traveling part just became a little much for me. I've always been busy, teaching and doing the things that I do. So it's hard for me to just take off and follow the band, which, was probably my biggest dream. Um, but, what I found is that you can't really be living somebody else's life.
Mm,
It's fun if I go out for a few days, a week, I'll have a blast, but then I'm ready to come home. I don't like leaving my dog.
mm,
There's a lot of things. I just feel that you need that kind of separation thing. And of course, I can go whenever I want, so I know that. So it's not like I have to restrict myself. But I go when I can, and I think I enjoy it more when I'm not there every day because you start taking it for granted. I know a lot of people, who go on the road and on the show, they end up like sitting in the dressing room during the show. When I go, I like to watch the show. I don't want to, hang out backstage. That's not why I'm there.
mm.
But it's always fun for me. It's
I will say one thing. Maureen's very, very humble, and I remember there was some questions, not questions, but so I remember like whenever she gets asked this, she gets asked this from time that I follow her on Twitter and whatever, and it comes up like once a year, I think. But so like there was this one time where Bruce pulled Maureen up on stage to do the dancing in the dark or whatever it was, and she got called up, and she was and most people would be chomping at the bit, I mean, to be doing the dancing, but she didn't want to take anyone else. She always mentioned this. She didn't want to take anyone else's spot. She wanted to give it to the fan, even though Bruce wanted Maureen, and it was, and there was no question about that, and he was not taking no for an answer. But Maureen, but Maureen just didn't feel like that's the type of person that she is. She didn't want to take it away from a fan. So based on all the other stories, you could see, how what the type of person that Maureen is.
well, I mean, first of all, it was I'm very shy. First of all. I
You
can go
can't tell with all these stories you've been telling me tonight.
oh, I know. I can go on stage and play a character, and I'm fine with that. But when I have to get up as me, I'm terrified. Like this scares me more just doing this
Ah,
podcast than me getting on stage and doing Streetcar Named Desire or
Wow.
something because it's not me. But with that, it was just very daunting to be up there. But I did feel badly, and it was twice. It wasn't once. And after the first time, I said, "Stephen, please, I don't want to do it again." I think he encouraged it the second time.
he did. Mohegan Sun was one of them. I remember in 2014. Yeah, Stephen went over to Bruce and said, "Maureen's over there."
Yeah, I was on the side stage and I wanted to kill him because we were in the hotel Mohegan Sun and I fell and busted my ass on marble in the bathroom and I could barely move. And I thought, oh God, I got to go up on stage and dance now. But,
I,
but I did feel badly because I know how much that means to people.
Yeah.
Like I always imagine if I was at a Beatles concert and they had ever brought, people on stage to dance and that they brought one of their girlfriends or their wives up there, I would have been kind of pissed off. So I thought, I don't, I don't want to be that person. I mean, it was fun. It was something different,
Yeah.
but I would hope that the fans get the chance to do that because it's very meaningful for them.
I mean, there's been one concert. I've been to hundreds of concerts in my life. The one concert I was truly nervous for, felt bad for, seriously concerned about was I went to Milan last year. It's the first time I'd been overseas. I wanted to see the band at least one time in my life overseas. I went to Milan. I was at San Siro. Stevie, of course, has his emergency surgery. Those two shows, that first show, it was so incredibly hot. Like he shouldn't have been there, but he was going to be there. Like we all knew he was going to be there, but he was there. I was truly concerned that he was going to pass out at some point in time.
I,
yeah,
I, I was terrified. That whole experience was really awful because I had planned to go to Milan, then I decided not to. I think I went to Liverpool and who'd have thunk it with me, the Beatles fan. But I didn't plan to go to Milan, and this happened when he was in San Sebastian in Spain. And no one told me. I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning, woken up out of my sleep, and you get that. Don't worry, he's okay. But okay, what's the but?
Yeah, really.
And then he'd already had the surgery. I didn't know that his appendix had ruptured. They didn't. presented to me that way because I think they didn't want me to
Mm.
panic. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna come over there, and it's like, no, Steven says, don't come over here, just stay where you are, and he'll talk to you later. And it was a very, very scary thing. I spoke to the doctor. I spoke to a couple of people who were there with him, and I was confident they were taking really good care of him. Bruce rushed over to the hospital, and some of the other band members. Um, it was very, very scary, and it was not presented to me that it was as serious as it was. I thought he had an appendectomy. I didn't know he had a ruptured appendix, and one was literally near death. Um, so anyway, when he said he was doing the show, I must have been on the phone with the doctor like 5,000 times. Are you sure this is okay? Are you sure this is okay? And the doctor, he said, okay, we've cleared him to do it. But I could kind of tell that, when he wants to do something, he's going to do it. And he pretty much told them, like, you're not stopping me. And he did it, and he was fine. And I think he would have felt terribly if he didn't do it. And I think actually having that will to do it made him get through it. And he did. And came home after that and made sure that he got a lot of rest and care of, and got through it. But it was a very brave thing to do. But anyone asks me what my motto is, and will have in the past, it's the show must go on, and that's what happened. So I'm just glad he was okay, because I had no idea how serious it was until much later.
Hmm.
He's a trooper. There's no question about it. It was just so hot. Under normal circumstances, it would have been a stretch, but to be in that heat that there was that day in Milan.
All right. Howie, Julie, anything from you?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The first thing is, where do you get all this energy from? Is there a supplement you're taking or something? Because you do so much.
I don't know. I don't like to waste time. I mean, I like to work on things that I love and that I care about. And, if you get that opportunity, you can't really turn it down. I mean, I just, I had a couple of scares in my life, and that made me think that you shouldn't take anything for granted, and you shouldn't waste time. I mean, truthfully, I feel like I should be doing way more than what I'm doing. I mean, I look at someone like Steven, who does 10 times what I do, and I don't know how he does it, but
Mhm.
I think I'm a perfectionist. I'm like very driven in that way to do things and do them as well as I can, and that's it. I think if you're motivated by a passion for what you do and a love for what you do, then you don't feel like it's work.
So you're not eating anything special. It's not like a diet.
I'm a vegan, and I eat junk all the time. As long as it's not an animal product, I'll eat a potato chips, candy, all that stuff. So I'm
You
not
gotta get
really,
junk, Jules. If we get junk, we're gonna be great.
I mean, I try to be healthy. I mean, I do dance classes and bar classes and stuff like that. So I think that had a lot of injuries over the years, but I've managed to, you know, keep fit, and I have a great physical therapist who keeps me going when I'm not feeling so great. Yeah, I mean, you have to push through things. I've had fibromyalgia for years, which
Mm,
is very painful, but I found the only way to deal with it is to keep doing stuff. Like you can't stop and become inactive and
Yeah,
think of yourself as a victim or whatever. You have to work through the pain,
true.
and that's something I learned as a ballet dancer also. You work
Mhm.
through pain, and I think that's it.
I agree, 100%. Even though I talk about retiring all the time, but I could never do nothing. I mean,
No.
it's just, how could you? You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think things are different now. I mean, people retired younger years ago, but we're all, thank God, able to do these things, and we should just keep doing them as long as we can.
Agree,
Yeah.
100%, definitely. The other thing was, I just wanted to know how your relationship started, like your friendship with Vinny Pastor.
Um, we were on the show together, And my theater company was doing a show called Golden Boy, and by Clifford Odets. And there was a role in it that was really perfect for Vinny, and I just approached him and asked if he wanted to do it. And he did, and we started a theater company together. At that time, it was my own little theater group, and then Vinny and I started Renegade Theater together, which is still going. We have a great group of actors, and again, we haven't been working a lot recently because of some personal stuff. But Vinny's one of my dearest friends. He's like, I'm one of 5 girls that never had a brother, so Vinny is one of the closest guys I can think of that
So nice.
closest to a brother to me. And we're still always in touch and always talking. We taught an acting class together for a number of years at HB Studios and had a blast. And he's just fun. He's everyone sees him as this big tough gangster, but he's like, a teddy bear. He's just like the warmest and most generous, lovely guy.
I've spoken to him before because he's from New Rochelle. That's where I grew up also.
Right. Yeah.
So he's like my homeboy, but he's always just so sweet. He's a very, very nice guy.
He is. He's a sweetheart. We'll do anything for you, and I'll do anything for him. He's just a great partner in crime, and we need to get back to work together soon.
Maureen, we interviewed Mark Ribler a couple weeks ago, and I watched the Dick Cavett video that you guys did. Just to see you and Vinny and Dick having a great time. It's a fun thing. So anybody that's out there that hasn't seen it, check out Mark Ribler, Dick Cavett. It was fantastic.
That was a trip and a half. I mean, it was so much fun. But I'm so in awe of Dick Cavett. I mean, my whole life I've always admired his interviews. I always thought he was just the most clever an interesting guy, and we filmed that at his house, and he and his wife welcomed this crazy group of people and musicians in and actors, and they could not have been lovelier. It was just really one of the highlights of my life.
Very
I'm
cool.
so lucky again to be asked to be in that thing, because it was a day that I'm never going to forget. It was just great.
Howie, anything from you before we close?
Well, I'm just gonna close it as such. First of all, again, Maureen, I want to thank you for spending so much time with us. I want to thank you personally for everything you've done, for me and Jules, but obviously for all your support for Spring Nuts, and that goes for you and Stevie. I would like to share just a small, simple thing to you guys out there, just to know how important she is. Maureen is to us. She's always been a supporter of Spring Nuts. Whatever I needed a video, I always got it. And she was always, very, very approachable. Not many, a couple of years ago, I was burnt out, completely burnt out. Okay. And long story short, I'm just going to leave it at this, I was like done, and I was, word got back to Maureen, and Maureen had reached out to me, and she was really a source of strength. And I say this all the time to anybody, other than my wife, Maureen is the reason, one of the biggest reasons why Spring Nuts has continued. Okay, and it's the truth. She was really, she checked up on me. She gave me strength. She gave me the courage, and she really is. I don't. We see it through the Stevie eyes. She's so much more than that. She's a beautiful person inside and out. She cares. She cares about the community. She cares about the fans. And I can't thank you enough. And I wanted to say this tonight. I've said this to you in person, but I want the group to understand that didn't know that, the support that she has given me and Jules personally and this group is immeasurable. And, I want to thank you. Now you can cry if you want. No, well, I didn't do it to you in the beginning. You can do it now.
I'm so overwhelmed by what you're saying, because I think of it the opposite. I just admire so much what you guys do. I mean, you do it with such like graciousness and love and you know, I love the community. You know, that's you know, being in the arts, that's what it's all about, and that's what you guys are all about. That you know, you love each other and you care for each other and you accomplish things together as a group, and you're not doing it for your own gain. You do it all to help other people, and you know, and while you're doing it, you have a great time, and there's nothing better in life than that, to do what you love and make it your work in a way. I mean, I know it's not your profession, but it is your work, and you do a lot of work. And you know, we're not going to talk about anything negative
Right,
here, but
right.
let me tell you, I think you guys have been very, very brave and strong, and I do support you in everything that you do. And there are a lot of other.
Thank you.
And it means the world. And just to speak just briefly, we have a ton of teachers in Spring Nuts, and Teach Rock is a very near and dear, foundation to us. I know, Michael Ann and Bill Carbone and Stacy and everybody, and they're a pleasure to work with. And that's why, again, it's such an honor for us, for the serenade, which is going to be sold out, by the way. um, Okay, but it's a pleasure and an honor to, have Teach Rock, to partner up with Teach Rock again, and to make them one of the beneficiaries of, of our event with Why Hunger. But, again, from personally for me, Maureen, and I know I'm speaking for Julian, that I want to thank you for all the support you've shown us, you and Stevie, and, you know, whatever we can do for you, we're always there for you.
I know that, and I love you guys, and anything you need, you know, I can do it.
Thank
I
you.
will do it, and thank you, all of you, for everything.
Remember when I told you the show was only going to be like an hour, and now it's like 2 hours?
This is what happens. We shoot for an hour and we just get talking. We're having a good time. There's no concept of time. Time goes out the window.
Yeah, but you
Maureen,
know what? We've got a lot of people still watching.
yes.
That really happen. Maureen, people are
Seven
really
jokes.
impressed with
I
you.
know, I'm a blabbermouth. You know, I'm
No, it's
Stop
wonderful.
it. Stop it.
once I
Wonderful.
get going, you can't stop me.
Okay,
You're
Maureen, I
great.
always say this to all the guests, okay? If the guests are not talking, we're screwed. Okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, it just shows you that I feel very comfortable with you guys.
Good.
Oh,
That's
thank
good.
you.
That's a
Thank
huge compliment for us because that's what we shoot
I-
for, is to make you feel comfortable. And Maureen, let me just finish with this. You were worried. You said you were more worried about doing this than getting on stage in Broadway. People that are watching, great comments. Everybody loves you. They, you're very humble, down to earth, shining diamond. You know, you're getting A+ gold stars across the board. So don't worry.
They love you, and I'm gonna take some screenshots. I'm gonna send it to you, Maureen, so you could see all the love that you've gotten tonight, and that's a testament to who you are.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You'll
Thank
say,
you.
in
Thank
the
you.
end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, and I think it goes for everybody.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yes, agree.
Love you
Perfect.
guys, and keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody ever tell you that.
Thank you.
Wood or
Thank
shouldn't.
you. And
You're
thank
doing
you,
right.
everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Maureen, for
Good
spending,
night, everybody.
Maureen.
and I'm giving you the biggest hug. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Amazing.
Maureen.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank
Take
you
care.
so much.
This
Have a
was
good night.
great.
Good night.
Everybody watching at home, thank you for tuning in. We will get this up on YouTube shortly.
Nice.
All right. Thank you,
Night.
everybody.
All right. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.